Well, dude, thanks for being on, man.
Of course, man.
Now I was thinking this morning. I mean, we talk about it a lot. Like every time I introduce you or anything. I mean, we've been rolling together a long time.
Very long time.
Since you were 14 years old.
Basically, yeah.
And I don't see how you haven't hit 30 yet. That's still the math. The math doesn't work out.
I don't think I'm allowed to at this point. I think it's just like I just keep peaking at 29.
Are you 29 now?
I am currently.
Oh, heck yeah. Finally. One more year. I mean, the rest of this year. Yeah.
The closer I get to 30, because obviously when you're young, you think 30's old.
Right.
And the closer you get to 30, you're like, oh, I'm probably just becoming an adult at 30.
It's true. Dude, I'm 44 years old, and I don't feel any different than I did. Like, sometimes, like, I'm like, am I supposed to have kids and a wife? And, like, I guess still, like, when I go on vacation, I was like, is this okay? Like, I don't feel all the way.
Am I responsible enough? For sure. Yeah, no, I don't feel responsible enough for my truck, let alone to have 2 boys.
Right.
And to raise them as well as you raise yours.
Man, yeah, they're awesome kids. That's all because of Angel, though. That has nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I thought, we're just launching this, and, of course, there was a huge controversy over the name. Had to change it, It's Chatter now, which...
What was are you allowed to say the...
Yeah, it wasn't really a controversy. I was just being dramatic. Okay. It was Dinkleby talking, and so one of the smarter people that I know, he never texts me, kind of like you, and he texts me and he says, he goes, hey, your podcast name is stupid. And he also called me a few other things. Okay. He said, you're interviewing people. You're not the one that's talking, number one. And he said, I sound silly. I won't say exactly what he said. But, yeah, so I was like, all right, well, fine. I'll go down a path. Because everybody loved the logo, right. Kind of the big head thing. And so I did it. I put up for debate. He suggested a few. And the smartest people I know and the people that understand marketing better than anyone thought Chatter was the way to go.
Yeah.
It's not the love of my life, but I don't really care. I just...
You want to get it out.
Yeah, and I'm excited to get to talk to interesting people and just I love talking to people. I appreciate people's lives, their life experience, their perspectives. And I like celebrating other people, so that's all I care about. Name means nothing to me. And so, I got to interview Angel last week or talk to Angel last week. And
the most interesting person in your life, I would imagine.
She's the most important person in my life for sure. But yeah, you have a big week. And so I was like, man, this is perfect, just to have you on. You're dropping a new song this week on Thursday? Friday. All right. On Friday.
Yes. Well, first, again, thank you for bringing me on such a, I don't know what the word to describe this week would be, but it is, it for sure is game changing in its own regard. It's been a minute.
Yeah.
It's been a minute. I started doing music very early on. I started recording music like late teens, early 20s. And that was like the last time I put music out. And so to put music out now, again, an entire decade later feels utterly ridiculous. Again, it's just like I don't even feel responsible enough to be doing this, let alone having children. But yeah, no, it's going to be, kickstart to something fresh, something new. So I'm really excited. And I'm excited about the song, too.
Heck yeah. So, it's a great song.
Thank you.
Am I like the only person that's heard the song?
No.
Dadgummit.
I should have lied, but.
Yeah, that would have made me feel awesome.
That would have really boosted the views on Chatter. No, yeah, I've showed a few close people. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't trash.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. And I'm pumped because one day I'm going to release, I have a recording of your song you showed me at 14 years old. Wow. You're like, hey, Chad, I wrote a song. You played it for me. I hit record. I don't know if you knew it or not. Yeah. But I have it. I have it in my back pocket.
I unfortunately do know this information. And that's why I'm so nice to you because I'm afraid of you releasing that audio file. But yeah, yeah, it's exciting times. I'm excited. It's kind of the hustle and bustle of trying to, just get things done as an unorganized person trying to do the best.
It's hard out there for us unorganized people.
It really
It is a challenge.
It really is.
How's the music game like changed? Because I'm sure social media, does it help or hurt? Because I bet it brought some oversaturation to the market, but it also makes it easy.
Yeah. It both and.
Okay.
In one way, social media really kind of broke. So like the thing about the music industry historically, it was the entry was so difficult. Like to get in, you really had to know somebody that knew somebody that. So social media it pretty much broke or removed the entry fee, or just completely cheapened it to where like anyone in this room could drop a song tomorrow if we wanted to.
Yeah.
Which on the flip side, just for the sake of, like, from a business perspective, it's I can't remember who, it was like, it's an age-old quote, but like, content is king. And I feel like that was Bill Gates who said that. But he said that long before, that was basically a prophecy. Like, this was long before the times that we live in now. And content is king. And so if these big organizations, labels, whatever, can get all this content that now they no longer have to pay for, because you can set up a home studio now for $500.
Right.
And so they don't have to pay for it, and the content's coming, and the people are responding, because ultimately the people are king, the customer is always right. And so if these artists have direct access through social media to a fan base, to following, to be able to churn out product at a low cost, these labels just come in, take them on, get behind them with what's called a distribution deal a lot of the time, and just kind of help them push now what has already been created from the product to the consumer.
Right.
And so since content is king, the labels are just like, fine, we'll just pivot to this, kind of new way of doing things and just kind of run it that way. I'm not an expert, but like that's just kind of from my observations. Yeah. And so, the game has changed a lot. It is a lot easier to get in. But I heard another artist talk about this, that we're in the era of what is referred to as fast food music.
Yeah, makes sense.
And so it's higher quantity, less quality. And so it's just churned out. So that's why we don't get a lot of classic music, like music that's like lasting forever. And also, since there's more platform, because at one point you only heard music on the radio or like whatever, a jukebox or whatever. Now everything requires music. Everything. Every platform requires music. So the one song that's the hottest song, it's being played 50 million times in 50 million places all at once. Right. So they burn out quicker.
For sure.
So
that's that's true. This years ago when I was in college, I was working with this guy building houses, and his goal was to become a one-hit wonder.
It's a real thing.
And that's like, this was like before things were like it is now. He's like, I want to be like the next Vanilla Ice. I want to be like the next, which I think he has some great hits. I'm a big Vanilla. Oh, dude, I could play his To the Extreme album, and I know every single song.
Man, listen, if you like it, I'll love you.
But that was his goal, and that makes sense because there's these huge stars that pop up, and then where do they, like Kesha? Where did she go? She gone. You know what I mean? I know there's some scandals with that one, but. That's interesting.
It is, and the one hit wonder model is interesting too, because I know I'm not trying to make this something like weird music industry seminar, but like it is a fascinating world, because a lot of people down one hit wonders. But one hit wonders is like a legitimate. It's a legitimate business model within the music industry. Yeah, it provides a lot of capital for those companies. Like so, they're looking for people that they can just kind of I guess squeeze for all the. We're also getting arrested. Right. Clearly, we're looking for people. They're looking for people who they can pretty much get out of them everything that they can with this one run, a couple songs, but that it brings it like a lot of times we focus on what the artist makes,
Right.
but those companies are making bank.
So much
you know
money.
what I mean?
And this isn't like meant to be a Vanilla Ice podcast, but he like
You should rebrand.
hold on, he like funded Death Row Records pretty much.
I didn't
Isn't
know
that
this.
that's like the story.
I've never heard that.
What's his name? What's big boy's name that's in jail?
Oh, Suge?
Suge Knight held him over a balcony supposedly.
No way.
Made him sell his rights, and he looks at it. He goes, "Well, this Vanilla Ice. The silver lining is, I mean, I funded my music funded Death Row Records.
Wow, that's
to
crazy.
get them started, like seed money.
That's wild.
Yeah, I'm a big Vanilla Ice fan.
Clearly.
So I was in Russia, and I was trying to connect with some people that were my age, and I was like, "Y'all know Vanilla Ice? Oh yes, Vanilla Ice." And so I started rapping it. So then I tweeted, just rapped Vanilla Ice for a bunch of Russians, and I tagged him in it.
Yeah.
He reposted me and followed me, and he still follows me
that
on
real?
Twitter to this day. Oh, I check it once a year.
Wow.
You know, I have an
Keep it-
anniversary date
yeah,
where I
yeah.
check to make sure he's still following me.
That's
So,
fantastic, dude.
it is. I think that's my moment. You know,
Yeah,
like
I
my
think
life's
so, too.
moment.
You should get him on this podcast.
I think that would be incredible.
Where does he live?
In Florida, South Florida, somewhere. Yeah,
Of course.
yeah. I think it's on 808 Beachfront Avenue, maybe.
Okay.
You
It's
know?
getting a little
Is it 808 Beachfront Avenue? Girls real hot, wearing lots of bikinis, rocking in lovers, driving Lamborghinis.
I didn't know the bar.
Well, one thing I love about you, so I've kind of watched your journey. Of course, you led worship, for a ministry that I was responsible for years, for people that struggle with addictions, and did a fantastic job at 14 years old, standing in front of. That's a tough crowd. They come in there, arms folded, and man, I could see early on like your anointing, how good you were at that. But you had some dreams, and you pursued those dreams, went off to Nashville at some point, and COVID brought you back, which brought you back into Angel in my life, and through whatever circumstances became our worship leader at Purpose Church. And at that point, you told me, and I'm kind of done with that whole wanting to be a recording artist. I want to be a pastor. I want to lead worship and do this. And so you were kind of settled there, and correct me if I'm wrong, but then God kind of reignited some passion in you. And this is not just about music for you. Yeah. This isn't about, I want to, have the next hit country song, or because you're doing country music. Sure. And I doubt you'll stay there all the time. I think you're an eclectic human being, so you'll probably
move around a little bit.
Move around a little bit. But it's not just about the music. The music is about a bigger purpose.
For sure.
So tell me about that.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. Speaking to that specific season where that you're referring to, when I was like kind of laying it down, I was more so really in a season where I felt I was getting honed in on the why. And I knew that like I always had that feeling like music is a vehicle. I always had that feeling. Even when I fell in love with music as a kid, it always felt like a conduit more than it felt like the thing.
Yeah.
I knew friends who were into music, and we were just two different characters.
Yeah.
Like, I knew friends who nerded out over notes and chords and the latest technology, and I'm still to this very moment not like that in the slightest way.
You're one of the few people I know that are not addicted to your cell phone.
Yeah, the opposite, actually. I'm addicted to ignoring people.
Which drives some people crazy, but it's actually a very healthy thing. I envy you.
Yeah, for sure. No, I'm definitely
But
not
answer
that
my
guy.
text.
But exactly. But yeah, so I mean, that was season specifically was kind of, the deal was like, for lack of a, I guess overused or cheesy term, that like ministry was the thing.
Yeah.
And that's what I know my life is dedicated to.
Absolutely.
And there was a period in Nashville where I had to make a choice, and I had to really decide, like, okay, because I was in a space where I was seeing ministry done almost like by this. So let me, I guess, give some context. I was living in Nashville. I had already, done well at a larger church, and before that, and so at that point, I'd been, and I'd done it for a while, and so I had been in the church world, in the ministry space for a minute by the time I had even gone to Nashville. And so I went to Nashville, and there were some opportunities there to continue that trajectory. And I was like, man, like, what is it? Because, like, I still feel 1,000% called to ministry.
Yeah.
But I just feel like my path just looks different. The path that I'm in, this will always be a part of my life, of course. Church will always be a part of my life. But I feel like the path that I'm meant to pioneer or tread or whatever, it feels like it looks different from this.
Right.
And it took me a long time, and I had a mentor out there who sat me down over coffee and was like, look, man, he goes, I believe in your talent, but he goes, bro, this is a business town. And he goes, and this is very practical advice. He was like, this is a business town. And he goes, you could lift a rock and find talent here. He goes, you need to get your business straight. You need to figure out what it is. You need to get clear. You need to figure out what it is you're trying to do.
Right.
And ironically, very shortly after that, the pandemic hit. And then I ended up making the decision to come back to Louisiana. And during that time, it was like hitting the ground running. And so I met y'all kind of right in the heart of all of that kind of finding its footing and the clarity, the getting clear phase of my life. And in all honesty, in so many respects, I feel like I'm just coming out of that season of like, I know what I'm here to do.
Right.
So
that's amazing. Yeah, because, just watching it kind of unfold, I think one of the first things maybe that I remember vision you got is for the, developing this ministry concept, the culture.
Yeah.
And from that, it's like a snowball effect, and there was an order. It makes me think of the scripture, God determines our steps. Like you had I think this will be first, and it hadn't even happened yet. But that's not because you didn't want it to. It's like it's God ordering things.
100%.
And so this clean music vision you have. You said everything is about a greater purpose.
1,000,000%.
And so I think it's so cool because almost every single Christian that wants to do music does Christian music.
Yep.
Very, very few. There's been very few that start off doing secular music unless they did secular music and found God or something, right? But you feel like, now, I lead worship and I'm going to develop clean secular music
100%.
that isn't about God necessary. I'm sure some of it will be, but it's about love. It's about life. And you have some great, you're like on our team. Angel and I were talking about this yesterday. One of your greatest contributions in our meetings, at least, is you bring language to things. You're great with that, which is good because you write songs.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. But sometimes there's like a thought or something, and you're great at putting words to it.
Right.
How do you say that? You say clean music. It's real music for a real world, or
So the larger, there will be a larger context. All these kind of ideas will exist within.
Yeah.
And I got to answer that question. The thing that was kind of like, one of the many things that was kind of like beating up against my heart in that season of like, what is it that I'm supposed to be doing? Is what does it look like for faith-based organizations or entities, and this is like on a practical level, what does it look like for faith-based businesses to do real-world work at mass influx?
Right.
We see taste of it, and they're all successful. Now, I won't say all, but like the taste that we see, they're like from the Chick-fil-A's to the Alter States, shout outs. Sorry, I'm giving you your free shout outs away on this podcast. But we know the organizations that are self-proclaimed faith-based organizations. the corny way that I put it, and I say it to myself, is I think these organizations do a great job at turning scripture into culture. And it just proves that that the way God designed things is better.
Absolutely.
It's just better, bro.
It's awesome.
And so when anybody, and if you notice, even in self-proclaimed faith-based companies, a lot of the things, especially culturally, that they do that works, you can find those principles in the Bible.
Right.
So you'll have, whether it's just non-faith proclaimed or whether they're just like, we don't believe at all, that even taking these principles, these God principles, and applying them to your life, they still work because they're designed to work.
Right.
So just imagine if you just gave to it. And my heart is like, there's so much controversy surrounding people of faith and the faith, and I'm like, man, we can change that.
Yeah. And there's so many areas that need to be changed. Like, as you're talking, I was thinking, man, this dude, like, you've been a Christian your whole life, relatively. I mean, I'm sure.
Three was rough.
3 was rough.
3, 4, that was rough. Yeah.
But you've seen some things in the church. Like, you got a lot of exposure to many different genres of church, expressions of church. So you've seen some things that need to change, right? You've had some positive and negative. You've seen what works, what doesn't work.
Absolutely, yeah. And so, anybody who kind of has that negative relationship with the church, you know what I mean? I've experienced a lot of the same, conflict, you know what I mean? And when I was in Nashville, kind of going back to that, I had this moment, and I wrote this song. I don't know if I'll ever release this song. I play it quite a bit when I do shows, but it's a song I wrote called Things Change. And I remember being on my bedroom floor in Nashville writing this song and simultaneously like praying and thinking. It felt like I was at a crossroads where I had to choose, okay, do I want to throw the baby out with the bathwater and go, not throw my faith out, but throw ministry out with the only expression of it that I've ever been shown? Or do I want to continue to do what I feel like God has called me to do? And like how he told Abraham in the Bible, he goes, go to a place and I'll tell you when you get there.
Yeah.
And I had this thought pop into my head of, well, the reason why things never change is because all the people with the change leave.
So
and
true.
So I ended up writing this song called Things Change When You Stay. Because the only hope for things changing. So like there's a bunch of like difference makers, for lack of a cheesy term, in the faith world and the church world or from there who have left because the expression of it didn't fit. But like being a difference maker makes you different.
Right.
So like a lot of times our differences make us run when it's like, no, our differences should stay. But then on the flip, we as, especially in leadership, we as faith leaders have to be receptive to like, okay, like we got to figure out the best way to kind of vet what's going on in people's hearts to figure out like, hey man, like this person is a disruptor. Yeah. But like that could be a great thing for the body as a whole. T.D. Jakes wrote a book called Disruptive Thinking, and he refers to himself as a disruptor. And I remember them asking him on another podcast, they were like, can you be like a disruptor in church? And it's like, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. But it's for what purposes are you disrupting? Right. Is the question. Yeah. And there are wise ways to disrupt.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's not just kind of that.
Yeah, productive and respectful ways to disrupt.
1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. But nothing changes without disruption.
Right. Totally.
You can't grow a tree without disruption.
Yeah.
So
it's true. Yeah. What's because I've been in church a long time now, and like you said, like a lot of things people leave over, I've experienced that and worse.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man, people do some crazy stuff.
Man. People think it's crazy out here. It's crazy. It gets crazy. Not in Purpose Church.
Yeah,
it gets crazy in the church as a whole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I always wonder, like, because I hear sometimes someone's, well, you don't understand. I have church hurt.
Yeah.
And they tell me what it is. I was like, well, I've had worse things happen to me.
Absolutely.
Like,
that's
real,
it.
Bro. I know it sounds insensitive,
but that is real.
Like, wait, that's
real.
it?
That's real.
They forgot your birthday, or they walked past you? You know, like,
yeah.
I don't get it. Like, what's one of the crazier things that's happened to you, or a funny thing?
Funny.
Maybe not funny.
Yeah.
Well, they're funny when you look.
Really
one day we'll look back on this and
I was
laugh.
like, we can make this funny.
Right.
Let's just laugh at the end of this, and then it'll be
instead
funny.
of crying.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah. I'm trying to think. Funny, dude. I've had some crazy things. Funny. Okay. All right. I don't have a funny one yet, but I do have. So like the origin story of everything that we're talking about right now is some crazy. It was derivative of some church craziness.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, it is not funny, but we can still laugh at the end instead of crying if you like. But in a nutshell, I grew up. My family's faith family. Like my mom was a preacher. My biological dad was a preacher. My grandma was a preacher. So like I grew up in it, and I grew up like the joke is day 2 out of the hospital.
Right.
Josh was in church, and so like I was in church my whole life and loved it. Like I felt a genuine connection to God early on.
That's awesome.
And it held me, and I thought about this because it held me later in my life when things got crazy in church. That is also a line in that Things Change song is church and God are not always the same. Mm-hmm. And I just felt like a genuine connection very, very early on. But when I was like 12, 13 is when I took it serious.
Right.
And I had a moment. I also went to a Christian school. So, like, I had a moment at a retreat where, like, everything changed. And I remember we were having this chapel service. And we had a girl with a physical ailment that one of our teachers was like, hey, let's just kind of get around her and let's just pray. And it was outside of so I'm 13. This is my first time on what was called our athletic retreat. So like all of the upperclassmen were there, and like maybe like some 7th, 8th graders or something like that. And I was in like 7th or 8th grade. And outside of this circle where, we're praying for this girl at our school is where I felt the love of God like crazy. And it changed my life.
Wow.
That literal same weekend, this is no exaggeration, we come home from that retreat on a Saturday. The following Sunday, I go back to my home church that I had been at all 13 of those years. And my mom worked crazy hours because she was a nurse. So she wasn't able to make it every Sunday, but I did not miss a Sunday. I was there with my grandma. So I used to sit with my grandma since day 2 out the hospital. I sat with my grandma every single Sunday if I wasn't singing in the choir or whatever. Mm-hmm. So and she was on what was called at that church the ministerial staff. So we always sat in the ministerial staff section. So anyway, I go to church that same weekend after the love of God just like, completely just changes my life. And like I go back to church hype. Like I got like the biggest Bible in the world. Like I'm just like hype. I'm on the front row. You know what I mean? I'm worshiping the songs I don't like. I'm just like I'm in it. And she and I are sitting on the front row of this ministerial staff section, and the pastor comes up and he looks down. This is in the middle of service, and this is a sizey church, bro. Like we're on TV, it's on the radio, like the whole deal. He comes up, he looks down, cuts the music, because there's an organ playing in the back. He cuts the music, and he looks down, and he addresses my grandma from the pulpit. He goes, Minister Martin, has Josh accepted his calling into ministry? In that culture, that means had I been ordained, had I gone through their school, had I gotten a certificate, had I done the deal. And so my grandma goes, from the seats, she goes, no, sir, he hasn't yet. And he goes, cool. Well, he's going to have to get up and go find somewhere else to sit. This is in the middle. It's packed out. I mean, it's a sizey church. I mean, it's probably, no exaggeration, like 600 plus in this room. So we're getting arrested again. I shouldn't be telling the story. But I get up and I'm walking around the church trying to find somewhere to sit, and he will not preach until I find somewhere. So it's fully silent. It was like it was the weirdest.
My gosh.
It was a very, 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 very weird situation. So I'm walking around the church, and I'm like, I'm shaking. I'm like, what's going on?
That's humiliating.
Yeah, man. And so I'm walking around, and I'm looking, and it was this sweet mom and her kids who I can see her shoving her kids over.
Make a little space.
And she goes, and so I remember sitting down, and he goes, okay. And then he starts preaching. And I'd been at this church my whole life. When I'm telling you, I sat down and I was pissed. Dude, I was livid. And so a famous line in that culture is the doors of the church are open. So that's kind of like the first little, I guess, like opportunity to get ready to leave or whatever. And so the doors of the church open. I went and got my grandma's keys and I dipped.
Yeah.
And I went to the car, and I remember at the end of service, like all these kind of like old church mothers kind of follow my grandma out to the car, and they were like knocking on the window because I'm sitting in the passenger seat just mad, like I'm just livid, and they're knocking on the window, and I like, and you know me, like I'm normally not like that, but I didn't open the door, I didn't roll the window, I was just like. And I remember one woman saying, she goes, just don't leave God. Just don't leave God.
Yeah.
Just don't leave God.
She knew you weren't coming back.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
She said, she goes, you can leave the church, just don't. I remember her saying that through the window. You can leave the church, just don't leave God.
Wow.
And I'm just looking forward, and I'm mad. And, you know, that situation, you know, my mom is my mom. So that, you know, my mom, she, you know, definitely tried to, you know. Anyway, but we ended up moving forward and looking for new churches. And I'm gonna land the plane here. We started looking for new churches, so now I have all this newfound faith, and I'm like, I don't know what to do with it, but like I don't have a church anymore. So that same weekend, I ended up going to a new youth group. And I was just like, hey, you know what I mean? It's easy to go to. I can just stay after school. I don't have to drive. So I'm gonna just go here. It's easy. It's accessible. Yeah. Completely different type of church.
Right.
Well, both Pentecostal technically in their expressions, but like one was like my church was Baptist. This was Assemblies of God.
Okay.
And so anyway, I just ended up kind of hanging out, and I was like, well, I'm gonna go here because like I have all this newfound faith, but I need somewhere to place it. And so I go here, and I'm the new kid, and I remember the youth leader taking us upstairs to this really cool like youth room with like all the light bulbs and the pool table, no deal. And so she pulls me to the side, I'm assuming because I'm new. And she asked me, she's like, hey, so, what's, this is all, I get saved at this retreat on Saturday. Sunday, that following Sunday, the thing happened in my church. This is Wednesday. So this is all within the same period of time.
That's crazy.
This is real life.
I didn't know that. You've shared all these stories with me. I didn't know they were all together.
Yeah, I have to clarify that this is all within a week.
Wow.
So she brings me upstairs. And I know I've shared this story at the church, but she brings me upstairs and she pulls me to the side. And I don't know how dreams ended up coming up. I am like a dreamer personality, so I could have easily brought them up.
Yeah.
But I remember in my brain, the story starts where she ends up asking me, for whatever reason, what are your dreams? So I end up telling her my dreams. And I had what I refer to as very real world dreams. And that comes from my mom. My mom raised me that way. So I wanted to be a basketball player. I wanted to be an NBA player. I wanted to be a Disney star.
A Disney star.
Angel never lets me live that down. Everything I do is me still trying to be a 40-year-old Disney star. And I wanted to be, a recording artist.
Right.
And so the woman looks at me, and she said this sentence, and I assume to dumb down the language to break it to a 13-year-old. But she goes, Josh, I hear you. But she goes, those dreams aren't particularly Christian. She goes, if you want to do music and perform and do the thing, she goes, basketball should be fine. But she goes, you should probably consider being a worship leader. And at the time, I'm already performing.
Right.
So so I was with a little agency, and we were traveling around. And we were doing this deal, and doing well.
And that was 13 years old?
13, yeah. That's a whole other part of my life is how I even got into the whole music thing. But as far as where it collides with the spiritual, I was already doing it. I was already, leading my basketball teams, and I was already, I was winning with this agency, these little competitions and doing the deal. So I was in it. I was with briefly kind of this little, we were trying out this little modeling agency thing, and that's kind of a lot of the end to that Disney world. So these things were already happening. These weren't just piped. I wasn't just saying, oh, what'll be a cool idea. We were in full pursuit of these things, and 2 of the 3 areas were already working. Obviously, I'm not saying I would have been an NBA player, but I'm just,
you would have been a Disney star.
I would have 100% been in that So Raven. But
that's so Raven.
But that is so Raven, man. But anyway, my life was already on that trajectory, and it And so she was like, hey, she goes, these dreams aren't Christian, so you're gonna have to figure something out. So I remember going home, putting on the music video of my favorite recording artist at the time, and convincing myself that God was telling me to give it all up. And so I did. And that is a lot of where the journey, it is where the journey started to here.
That's amazing. Makes sense.
And so hopefully I just want to be a part of, being a solution to another 13-year-old kid who could be being told.
Yeah. That's a huge overstep to, put a stop to someone's dreams. Yeah. When you're talking, and I was thinking, man, have I ever done that? I can think of a situation where this friend of mine, Sid, we were flipping a house together, very talented guy, and he told me, I was like, well, what do you want to do? Because you're really good at this, but, got to figure out how to, scale this up. And I was just really trying to help him with his life plans. This was decades ago, I guess, 15 years ago. Not decades, but 15 years ago. And he told me, well, my dream is to build obstacle courses all over the country. And I was like, dude, that's dumb, man. I was like, dude, nobody does obstacle courses. And I'm like, no, you need to do something, this. Well, guess what? That dude today builds obstacle courses all over the world.
Fantastic.
Has built them in other countries. he's trying to now figure out how to be home more because it has been so successful.
That's fantastic.
So like, don't listen to me, you know? I mean, that was his dream. I had I'm just talking. I didn't know anything about he's all into the, I forget what it's called, all those, Ultimate Warrior type stuff. Not Ultimate Warrior, but
I know what you mean, like the strong man kind of deals.
Yeah, where the Ninja Warrior, that kind of that stuff. And it's like, man, that's ridiculous, bro.
Yeah.
I was wrong, you know? And so I look back on that, and every time I see him, I talk, because he's been successful. I was like, man, don't listen to me, man. But what a great overstep to try to stop somebody's dreams, man. Like,
it's wild.
And to think, and that's where I think Christians go wrong is like everything has to be within this bubble. If it's not in this bubble, if it's all in this bubble, you don't get to be a doctor, you don't get to be a lawyer, you don't get to, do anything. But you can do anything for the glory of God.
Absolutely.
And so, that's crazy. And it's so cool how God, that 1 7 or however many day period, still is in motion today in a good way.
1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. Yeah, I mean, most of Jesus' work was outside of synagogues.
Yeah.
Most of them were in the marketplace.
Right.
Most of them.
Yeah.
The vast majority.
Yeah.
So I think, for people who I guess have been, it's more refining when, as far as people who've had unfortunate situations in, church or faith circles. It's more so it's more the expression that I think people have been negatively impacted by.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it takes both sides just kind of refining that targeting, going like, okay, this is the area of pain. This is the pain point. It's not God.
Right. Right.
It's not God, bro. It's not even ministry. It's not faith.
Right.
It's this expression, this particular expression. And the church and the faith is not monolithic. So, like, you have all these different expressions of, so, like, to say the church is broad.
Right, right.
It's a pluralistic thing. That means a lot of things, And so it's more so refining it. It's like that's what doctors do when they're trying to figure out what's going on with you. They have to refine the target down to, like, what is the pain point? Like, where is this coming from? And then the chiropractors will talk about it all the time, like, the place where you feel the pain may not be the origin spot of the pain.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so, I get it. I've experienced those same pain points in my life, and I believe is the very thing that God is going to use to birth whatever He's trying to birth through my life.
Heck yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it's so true. When you generalize anything, it doesn't really work out. It's not fair. That's like saying, do you like doctors? Well, I'd have to meet each one to see if I like that doctor.
1,000,000%.
And to generalize the church, it's like, man, they're not all exactly the same. They don't all do what that one did. They're all flawed because they're run by man. But
1,000,000%. And what if we do believe that there is opposition to the purposes of God being fulfilled, what better place for it to be is in a place where a whole bunch of people proclaim to believe in God.
Right.
Like, a lot of people, we'll sometimes quote, like, the devil's on the front row, but, like, you know what I mean? It's any opposition is going to be where, it's going to try to get in the way of where it's, biggest source of, whatever it's trying to oppose is, you know what I mean? And so, like, a lot of people have had, these bad experiences, and I feel them, and, like, my heart goes out.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because pain is relative. It hurts your feelings. It hurts you.
Yeah.
It does suck. I hate it.
Yeah, but, like,
doesn't mean you have to respond with leaving. It doesn't respond, and look.
And that's
you needed to
point.
leave that church.
Right.
Doesn't mean you have to leave church. Yeah.
Yep. And again, it's like church is a God idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like, if you don't leave God, He'll bring you to the right place.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. And many things are very relevant or it's appropriate to roll on and find somewhere else. But a lot of times people are just looking to be offended, because
for sure.
that's what you and I mean, we've walked through so much over the past, 4 years now? Is that
Almost 5.
Almost 5 years together. Between you, Angel, and I, we have walked through some stuff.
For sure.
We are each other's counselors.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, sometimes we're just the easiest ones to blame.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Hey, I want to make bad decisions, or I do this. I don't want to take responsibility. Let's blame Josh.
Right.
He didn't text me back, so yeah.
That means he fill in the blank. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, dude, I'm pumped about this song because man, that's one of the things I'm passionate about is seeing someone's dreams come true. And getting behind someone's dreams. And they don't have to be my dreams. We have this isn't necessarily a church podcast, but for our church, Purpose Church, we have a vision. Right. And as long as something fits within that vision, I'm for it. Our vision is to love God, love people, live in freedom and purpose. And so, along the way, someone came, hey, we want to have a thrift store. Well, guess what? I hate clothing donations. I can't stand it. I would never, ever do that. Right. But some key team members came along. They want to do this. I had a 25-foot enclosed trailer. So we turned it into a thrift store, mobile thrift store. It's awesome. I'm for it. I love it. Yeah. I would never do it, and I won't do it, but I'll get behind that dream and do whatever I can to make it happen. And with you, I'm not talented. You and I have a lot of similarities, except for you're better looking and you're actually talented. And so the opportunity for Angel and I to get behind your dreams and to do whatever we can to support, believe in you, and all those things, it brings me a ton of joy. If you're, when your career explodes and you have that conversation, Chad, we got to make some changes, whatever that looks like. Yeah, I don't like it, but I love it. You know what I mean? Because that would be a reality of the future, probably. For there have to be some adjustments along the way. And so I am genuinely excited about what God is doing. I know we're just it's just getting started as far as releasing this song, and then there'll be more songs and. Getting things like the culture, which is a great concept that you came up with. It solves a big problem for reaching urban communities, something that is, we are very passionate about, not just so we can be cool and do the right thing. It's what I love.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But I love it because, I've never liked going into a community, doing something, and then we gone. Yeah. But this one, we're in the community, here's some resources, and this is a way that we can continue to minister to you in a way that's relevant to you or speaks to you, and I'll give you that representation in the house of God. Yeah. And so I believe God is going to bring I know He's going to bring all of that into fruition. Yeah. But this song you're releasing on Friday, tell us what you can about it.
Yeah. So the name of the song is called "I Know You're With Him." Ooh, I know, juicy. Yeah. So again, real world.
Yeah.
I'm 29, unmarried guy. So I'm full ministry's my life, but I still have a real life.
Yeah.
So I still get my heart broken or things anything. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Just things don't work out or whatever. Life still happens to me in whatever way. So this is a song about that. And again, my heart behind all this is not even just for there's a project name that I'm throwing around, but it just has everything to do with hope, and it has the heartbeat behind it ultimately is I want Christians to know that hey, it life is still happening and that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
You feel me? And then on the flip, for regardless of what you believe, if you're just living your life, that hey, and I wouldn't say this explicitly, but like a verse in the Bible that I love is, "We don't grieve as those who have no hope." And that for anyone struggling with anything, because we all are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Regardless of what you believe, that there is hope. Like we don't have to give up or throw in the towel just because real life's happening.
Right.
But then on the flip end, for Christians, it's like you got to get real, bro.
Right.
And you have to admit that
Absolutely.
things are actually happening.
Right.
And Jesus juking everything is not gonna work. Like actually, Jesus, I think it's very profound just from like a practical perspective of like the story of Jesus is God like invading reality,
Yeah.
like becoming a human being and living a full life.
Right.
I think that in and of that concept in and of itself is like a very powerful thing. And I think we are called to do the same thing.
Absolutely.
Like we are meant to now from this place of faith go into real life. And so, yeah, the song it's about a girl who, can I say thought on this podcast? Probably not.
Yeah, you just did.
Anyway,
so,
I did. Yeah, if I was
so.
one, we could probably blank that out.
Nah,
But
go
yeah,
for it.
you know what I mean. It was about.
What does that mean? Like a thought, like an idea?
Yes, that is exactly.
Sometimes
what
I like to play oblivious
Yes.
to worldly words.
Yes. That is exactly what it means. She was thoughtful.
She's thoughtful.
She was a thought. This song is about a very thoughtful, yeah. And so, it's a situation that, girl was playing games and didn't, we ended up obviously not working out, but this song is referring to, I know exactly what's going on.
Right.
And so I know exactly why we didn't work out. And yeah, just a real life.
Okay, and it's a country song.
Country, yeah.
And it's releasing on Spotify.
On all the platforms.
All the platforms.
Yeah.
Okay.
This Friday.
Yes.
Yes.
That's exciting. And it's country.
It is.
So you went country.
I did go country, bro. Here, I ran from it. So, like, when I lived in Nashville,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, I was obviously out there. There's one thing to do. Everyone, I'm going to leave that there. But when you go to Nashville for country music, or you go for Christian music, there's other scenes. But, like, if you really want to, like, make money, you go for country music or Christian music. That's what the biggest industries there. And so
country and Christian are the biggest industries in Nashville. Okay.
Yeah. And so I was writing country music out there.
Okay.
That was all I was doing. And then I got pulled into the Christian scene and I didn't want to.
Yeah.
And I remember being at this sync licensing party, which is sync licensing is just like companies that play songs on like film and TV and like commercials, that kind of deal. And I was at this party and they kept pushing me as a Christian artist. And I was like, stop telling people that. And now I'm proud to say that I would consider anything that I'm doing to be associated with faith. But yeah, it is country, and that is something I ran from. I ran from the country thing forever, and I ran from the Christian thing forever.
Okay.
And so now I'm just kind of, I now see the purpose for it all.
So you may make me bleep this from the podcast, but let me ask you some personal questions.
Yeah, for sure.
So you connect with country music.
Yeah.
Have you ever ridden a horse?
I have not.
Have you ever branded a cow?
No, I have not.
Have you ever roped a cow?
I have not.
Have you ever driven a tractor?
I have not.
But you know what? To defend you, Tupac wasn't a real gangster.
That's a fact.
He was like a nerd.
I don't want to call some other people out either. But no, that is true.
Well, Tupac became gangster, so you're become country.
That's true.
We're going to ride horses.
That's true. I'm slowly building my rapport as I'm building the plane while it's in the air. But then on top of that, Like Western country and Southern country is very different.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And I know a lot of guys down here who have just never done those things, but they're like backwoods.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So, so here's the thing with the music. When I was 7 years old, I fell in love. Like, my family hates country music.
Okay.
But I fell in love with country music at 7. And because
That's wild.
Yeah. So we're from this like small town in Mississippi called Centerville, Mississippi.
Okay.
My family is. And so we used to ride out there, and ironically, like cows, and like I used to love that as a kid.
Yeah.
And I think like some of my first words were like moo and that kind of deal.
I love it.
But I remember being 7 one time, and we were going out to visit my big ma, which is what I call my great grandma, and we were going out to Mississippi, and there's like all these rolling plains, and I remember looking out, and my grandma was playing like this fuzzy gospel station, and I was like, "This is cool." One, I can't hear anything because it's just like it was an AM station, so it was just like shh the whole time. But then I was like, this doesn't fit what I'm looking at.
Okay.
And
right.
So I was like,
okay, yeah.
So I asked, I was like, can we put on some country? And she begrudgingly was like, fine. And from that moment on, I was like, oh my God, I love this.
That's
but
awesome.
I never ran to it because it just was, country wasn't cool
Yeah.
for a long time.
I agree.
Country just became cool.
Yeah.
And so I guess you can call it trendy or whatever, but like it did, I was secretively country for a long time.
And your grandfather was country, right?
Yeah,
and
he
just passed away last year. He was very influential in your life.
1,000,000%.
You inherited some boots, some hats.
Yeah, some boots.
Some boots.
Some boots. Yeah, he got fire boots too.
Yeah.
Like unbelievable. When he dropped that load of boots on me outside his house, I was like, bro, who are you? It was like animals that I didn't even know existed that he made into some boots. So, yeah, no, my papa was the man. And he was very eclectic in his musical taste. And my mom is the sole reason why I'm an eclectic human being. She's, musically the most eclectic human being I know.
Yeah, and it makes sense, of course, I was just messing with you about the horses and stuff, but you're the type dude that can walk into any room with any group of people and survive, and not just survive, thrive.
Yeah, and that's my mom, bro. Yeah. That is my mom. Like she was actually very intentional about that early on. Like that's all her. Yeah, yeah. Because I used to ask her growing up, like the voice she used to talk to me with and the voice she used to order at McDonald's with was two different voices. And one day she was ordering food and like her voice changed. And I was like, tell me about that. And it didn't change. She was still herself, but she just knew how to present herself in these different environments. But yeah, we were at a McDonald's drive-through. Well, I said, why does your voice change? Because she would go from talking to me one way and then she'll go, hi, blah, blah. And I'm like, who's?
It's like her phone voice or something?
Yeah, 1,000,000%. Yeah. But yeah, she's still the essence of who she is, but she just knows how to present herself in all these different environments.
I think we all do that.
It's smart.
Yeah.
Social smarts.
Yeah, I do a lot with recovery in the recovery world. Now, there have been many times where I had to change my clothes before I went and did an intervention or something, because if I walk in there with khaki shorts with a tucked in polo, what am I going to do?
Exactly. Exactly. Yes.
Change my clothes and be like, so you can be received.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. Yeah, I think being versatile is like. Yeah.
For the record, I didn't wear khaki shorts with my shirt tucked in.
Yeah, that didn't sound like you, but I didn't know if that was your.
Yeah, there's been very few times in my life where my physique allowed for a tucked in shirt.
Bro, you really have to have the physique for a tucked in shirt.
Yeah, and if you don't, it's like, bro, untuck your shirt,
because it's unnecessary at this point.
Because like the physics of it, you're like going around and down. Yeah, like how do you even do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And why would you want to accentuate that?
Exactly. If you have to go around, then you shouldn't go down.
Yeah.
That's the point. Well, that should probably
What
be
shape is
bleeped
that?
out.
Question mark? Upside down question mark.
I feel like this part of the show is going to get questionable. I think this could get clipped and turned into something wild.
Like you look down and you see that.
Okay. You know what? I think this is where. That is hilarious.
So yeah, I just don't tuck in my shirt.
Yeah, no, right.
Said all
They're
that
like,
to say-
oh, that's what that was about? Oh, man, that's funny.
I wasn't good at physics. So I can't. I can't do it. Well, dude,
funny.
excited about the release of the song. We'll be, sharing it. If you listen to this, share it on social media, download it. Do you have to buy it or is it free?
No, it streaming.
Streaming.
Yep,
Is that even a thing anymore? Buying music?
I don't know.
Yeah.
If I'm honest, I haven't bought a song.
Yeah, me neither. But I mean, I'd buy yours.
Thank you. But no, I have not bought music in God knows. It's probably been since 2013 I've bought music.
Okay.
Yeah. But no, it'll be on all streaming platforms.
Okay.
The whole deal. You
Awesome.
can YouTube it. You can do whatever you want to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, dude, Abram started to try to write me an intro song for this.
Nice.
He's not going to be able to do it. So,
Yeah, I'll take that on.
okay, thank you.
I'll take that on. It'll just be I know you're with him, but
Oh, that song was about Chad.
it's like, oh, that explains that
Chad
weird little.
Is Chad a thought?
Well, I heard Chad was He was pretty thoughtful as a
thoughtful
kid.
guy.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Well, thanks for being on,
no,
man.
thank you for having
Love
me,
you.
man.
Appreciate all you do,
Love
what
you,
you mean
bro.
to me, my family, our
you.
church.
Thank you.
And yeah, love you, dude.
Do same. Thank you so much.